Right, our topic today is called using zero as a placeholder. And these examples are going to look familiar because we've already talked about adding and subtracting decimals, and we've already talked about a little bit with multiplying decimals, but this is just more of the, if you're doing it paper and pencil, and how zero works with some of these. So let's get to our first example, and we're going to take 4.6 minus 0.46. Now if you did this paper and pencil, we'd have our 4.6, and we know that when you add or subtract decimals, that you line up the decimals. So now I have a 0.46 that I'm subtracting. Now this is what we mean by using zero as a placeholder. I'm going to put a 0 right here, because at the end of any decimal, and this is something for future reference. If you add a 0 to the end of any decimal, it doesn't change its value. Some more examples of that would be if I had 3.7, that's the same thing as 3.70. So 3.7 means the same thing as, for example, $3.70. Or if I had 0.1, if I add a 0 to the end of it, it's still the same value. Now I can subtract my decimals. And let's see, 6. I can't take 6 away from 0, so I borrow. And I go through this process, and I get 4.14. All right, example 2. Usually, and I was going to say here, usually you put the decimal with the most digits on top here, but you can't do that here because when you subtract, you can't change the order. So I got to have the 0.4 on the top minus 0. Notice I'm lining up my decimals 3, 2. Now, I can't take 2 away from nothing. So what's this mean here? Really, there's a 0 here. Again, adding a 0 to the end of a decimal doesn't change its value. So now I move the decimal straight down. I need to borrow. And I get 0.08. So this problem would be a lot like taking 40 cents minus 32 cents. And what's left over is 8 cents. All right, example 3. A problem like this is a lot like taking $1 minus 98 cents. So 1 minus 0. Now remember, where is the decimal in a whole number? Well, it's right to the right of it. Okay, so I have minus 0.98. Now here I can add 2 zeros. Remember, adding 0 or zeros to the end of a decimal doesn't change its value. Move the decimal straight down. Now I need to borrow. Okay. Now borrow from the 10, and I get 0.02. Or in other words, $1 minus 98 cents is 2 cents, and that makes sense. All right, example 4. Now a little bit into multiplying decimals. And you can use calculators here to check this, but you're going to take your 0.2 times your 0.3. Now, a little review on multiplying decimals. I know that 2 times 3 is 6. Now here's what I got to do. When you multiply decimals, you don't just move this decimal point straight down. We do not move the decimal point straight down like you did when you add and subtract them. Here's how you do this. From the right, how many times was the decimal moved here? Once. And from the right, once here, right? So it's moved a total of 2 times. So what do I need to do is from the right, I need to add some zeros in front so I can move it 2 times. So my answer then is 0.06. Let's take a look at example 5. Now here, since we're multiplying, I can change the order. So I'm going to put the number with the most digits on top times 0.1. And again, when you multiply decimals, you don't need to line up the decimals. Okay, we do this a little different. Now 1 times 1 is 1, right? Now how many times was the decimal point moved from the right here? 1, 2, right? How many times was it moved from the right here? Once. Total of 3 times. So I need to move the decimal point from the right 3 times. So I need to add some zeros. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So my answer then is 0.001. And that's just a little review, and we'll get into multiplying decimals as we go along here, but that's just kind of a introduction to what we have coming up. So again, our topic here today was called using 0 as a placeholder.